All right, we're in our second video of section 4.5 on multiplying polynomials. We've seen in previous videos a monomial times a monomial, one term times one term. We've seen one term times two terms. Well, now we're going to add to it, add a little bit something different and multiply two terms times two terms, a binomial times another binomial. So if you look at example number 4 with me, you notice that the parentheses are right next to each other, which means that we're multiplying. But you notice that there are two terms in each of these polynomials. And so what we have to do here is we have to make sure that we take this first x and multiply it to every term in the second set of parentheses. But then we also have to take the 5 and multiply it to every term inside the second set of parentheses. We've got to distribute both terms. So what is x times x? X squared. X times 4, 4x. Then I'm going to multiply the 5 through. So 5 times x is 5x, and 5 times 4 is 20. You notice in my new polynomial, I have like terms. I have a 4x and a 5x that have the same exact variable with the same exact exponent, so I should be able to add these together. Now remember, when we add and subtract, we do nothing with the exponents, we just combine like terms. So if I have a 4x plus a 5x, I can really combine those and just say that I have a 9x. So my final answer in standard form would be x squared plus 9x plus 20. Look at B. B also has us multiplying. We have two terms in the first polynomial and two terms in the second polynomial. So we're going to do the same thing that we did in example number 4a. We're going to multiply through by the 4x, and then we're going to multiply through by the negative 3. You ready? 4x times x is 4x squared. 4x times negative 2 is negative 8x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x, and negative 3 times negative 2, now be careful, two negatives make me a positive 6. You also notice again that I have like terms in the middle, and so I can combine those and say a negative 8 minus 3 is really a negative 11x. Your final answer should be 4x squared minus 11x plus 6. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do these types of problems, different ways of organizing yourself. Some of you also might have heard of FOIL before. We'll talk about that in the next section. And you might like to organize yourself a couple of different ways, which is fine. Just make sure that you're clear, that you're organized, and that we can clearly see your work so we know exactly what you're doing. A couple of different ways you can organize. For example, if I have this x minus 3 times x minus 2, I have two binomials being multiplied. You can multiply it just like we did back in the day when we would multiply double-digit, triple-digit numbers together. Or you can take 2 times negative 2, times negative 3 and get positive 6. Then I'm going to multiply the 2 times the x, the negative 2 times the x, and say negative 2. Remember, we carry down our placeholder. We put a 0. We multiply x times 3, which is a 3x, and then our x times the x, which is an x squared. And then from there, we add our columns together, and we would end up getting x squared. Uh-oh, did I make a mistake on my signs? You're right, let's see here. So this should be a negative 2, because a negative 2 times x is a negative 2x. See how easy it is to mess up? So be careful. All right, both of those should be negative. Sorry about that. So negative 3 times x should be a negative 3x, and a negative 2 times x should be a negative 2x. So be careful with your signs. So when you add them together, you get a negative 5x. So your final answer would be x squared minus 5x plus 6. Kind of like how we did when you would have, double-digit numbers and you were multiplying them together. Kind of like that. If you like that way, use it. Here's another way. Some teachers call it the box method, where we would write our x minus 3 in each column. And then we have our x and our minus 2 over here in each row. And then what we're going to do is simply multiply the row by the column. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And negative 2 times negative 3 is a positive 6. From there, we can start combining like terms if we have any in the different boxes. I notice that I have a negative 2x and a negative 3x. And so my final answer is x squared minus 5x plus 6. That's another way of keeping yourself organized. You might like that way better. Let's continue on. Let's do a little bit of something different. Look at example 5. How is example 5 different than the ones we just looked at? Well, you notice that we're still multiplying our polynomials together. The parentheses are right next to each other. But this time, we have a polynomial in our first set of parentheses that has 1, 2, 3 terms. That's a trinomial times a binomial, right? But we're going to do the same thing that we've been doing. We're going to take each term and just distribute it to the terms in the second parentheses. So I'm going to take my x squared and distribute it through. I'm then going to take my 2x and distribute it through. I'm then going to take my -3 and distribute it through. You ready? Here we go. So x squared times x, remember, is x cubed. X squared times 4 is just a 4x squared. Now I'm going to do the 2x through. 2x times x is 2x squared, and 2x times 4 is really an 8x. I'm going to do the -3 now. -3 times x is -3x, and -3 times +4 gives me a -12. And do you see how I've kind of organized myself in columns with like terms? Now I can simply combine my like terms by looking at the different columns. I have an x cubed all by itself. I have a 4x squared and a 2x squared. Remember, when I add, I do nothing with the exponents. I just combine like terms. That gives me a 6x squared. I have an 8x minus 3x, that's a 5x, and then I have my -12 or -12 in the back. So there's my final answer with all my like terms combined. Example 6 looks similar to example number 5. It looks like we're still multiplying. We have 3 terms times 2 terms. Why don't you pause the video, distribute your 3 terms through, combine your like terms, and let's see if we get the same thing. All right, I'm going to multiply the 5x to the 4th through. Remember, when we multiply, we really add the exponents. So 5x squared, 5x to the 4th times x squared is really 5x to the 6th. 5x to the 4th times 2x is really 10x to the 5th. I'm going to do the -2x squared now. I'm going to multiply that to all my terms in the second set of parentheses. -2x squared times x squared is a -2x to the 4th. -2x squared times +2x is a -4x cubed. Now let's do the 3x. 3x times x squared is 3x cubed. 3x times 2x is really 6x squared. Now let's see if we have any like terms that we can combine. This is my only x to the 6th. This is my only x to the 5th. Well, this is my only x to the 4th. But it looks like here we have a 4x cubed and a 3x cubed. Those are like terms that I can combine and really make that a -1x cubed. And then I have my 6x squared in the back. All my like terms are combined. I have positive exponents everywhere, and it looks like I'm in standard form. So just making sure that you distribute each term in the first parenthesis to each term in the second parenthesis, and then combine your like terms.